We bought our property here in 2003 and built our forever home, and lived a very happy life here. We rode our horses, we had a nice garden, we had a pond that we were swimming in. It was just, we had all the family gatherings here and picnics. My son's rehearsal dinner was here in the backyard. It was beautiful. And about 3 years ago, they started doing those seismic readings all over the place. Well, nobody was real forthcoming about what was going on. Then we started reading that they were thinking of drilling in Mercer County. The first pad that we saw coming in was over on 62, which is about 1.5 miles from here. And then we found out from a neighbor that he had leased his property and they were going to put a main facility there, which would be a transfer compression station, and all the wells in the area were going to be piped into this. Well, when they started building that, our whole life changed. The traffic here was unbelievable. You couldn't ride your horses. It wasn't safe. You wanted to watch your dogs because they were going to get hit. And then the compressor station started coming in, and that was just construction at that time. And then all of a sudden they started bringing pipelines in. Well, then came the flares that were 500 feet in the air and lit up the neighborhood. And in the winter on my deck, you could actually feel heat, which was so weird from that. You know, we live about 1/10 of a mile from the fracking, and of course we are exactly downwind from them. And it was in that winter that that time we now had alpacas that we were showing. We got them in 2006. But I came in from doing all the chores and I sat down, and all of a sudden I felt my nose run, and I thought, well, this is weird. And I put my hand up and I had a bloody nose. Well, I went into the bathroom and I definitely had a bloody nose, and I've never had a bloody nose in my life. So of course my first thought was, I'm going to the computer and find out how to stop a bloody nose. And my son-in-law makes the joke about how many people die sitting in their computer trying to find out if I should go to the hospital or not. Well, I couldn't get this stopped. So I made a call to my husband and I said, he was in Vermont, and I said, I'm really having a problem. He said, you got to get to the hospital. You're losing a lot of blood. So I came out, and my car was parked alongside of the house covered in snow. And I tried to get it brushed off, but I couldn't. My nose was bleeding so bad it was choking me down my throat. So I took my husband's pickup and started driving up the road, and I ended up stopping at a house and telling them I needed help. And they took me to the hospital. My friend Barb took me to the hospital. I got to the hospital with this, and they ended up having to go in and do some type of a cauterization. But my blood pressure was very, very high. And so they sent me to Pittsburgh to a specialist. They did all the heart things that they think that would cause blood pressure to be that high. There was no medical reason that my blood pressure should be so high. So they put me on a lot of blood pressure medicine, and it keeps it at bay. But as it gets higher, the more this thing puts out the pollutants. I have talked to my neighbor Rich, who for the first time in his life has been also having nosebleeds, and I didn't know he was having them. He didn't know I was having them, but it seems to be the same time frame. I have been having problems with balance, which was not something that I had before, and I can't wear my contact lenses. I'm hoarse a lot of the time from when I'm breathing, and I wouldn't say I was a medical wreck, but I would say that there are some medical changes in my life that are kind of frightening to me, especially at my age. And I'm a healthy, active person that doesn't just rock on the chair. One day I was out in the yard and there was a bunch of people digging holes in my front yard. So I went up and said to my husband, there's some Hispanic people digging holes in my front yard. I think maybe we better check it out. So he went up to talk to them. And when he finally found somebody who spoke English, they said that they were putting this in to keep the truck lights from being in our windows. Well, we didn't know anything about that, and when it all boiled down, they were putting the fence in the wrong place. So my thought was, wow, if these guys are this inefficient, it frightens me that they're dealing with all these chemicals over there that are coming up into the air. And I've complained. I've called the DEP and left my name. I've not gotten to talk to anybody, but I have complained. And I mean, I don't want to terrify people, but when you get letters from Williams Pipeline Company that tells you you are very close to a high pressure pipeline and that they have bullets of this, and this could happen, and you are to evacuate immediately, take no personal possessions, no animals, no nothing. Don't call 911 until you get safely from your property. It is a very unnerving thing to live in a place where you think, oh, is this the smell I'm supposed to be smelling? Or is this the rumble I'm supposed to be hearing? We get a lot of vibration here. We've got, some cracks that we've patched in the downstairs ceilings, and the windows will rattle at night when the compressor station is going full blast. Today, you're fortunate you can hear me. They're quiet today. But at night, the lights are bright. It rattles the windows. You can't sleep. It's just unnerving. And the decibels are normally 80 decibels or more. And I have significantly noticed a loss in my hearing over the last 2 years. And I feel is the constant noise, whether I'm awake or asleep, that is constant in my ears. This is Prissy. She's my horse that was 20, very healthy 20. My grandkids rode her, and up until the day she died, we treated her for a small cut on her foot, which swelled up her foot, which we thought was very unusual. And that seemed to do well, and I came down one morning and she was down in her stall. And she was trying as hard as she could to get up. Got the vet here immediately. They did a blood test, and she had virtually no red blood cells left in her body. She couldn't live. We ended up putting her down. I sat in the barn waiting for someone to come pick her up for 6 hours with her head on my lap. This was my family member. It was terrible. Prior to that, I lost an alpaca, Eva. She was the second alpaca I ever owned. She was kind of a grumpy old alpaca, but she gave me 3 beautiful babies, and she had a forever home here. And that was pretty hard. And then my beagle died. She lived in the house. She was pampered. It was like she had a stroke. She didn't know where she was. She'd go outside and stand there and just look around. She didn't know what she was supposed to do. This is my sweet dog that we've had for about 9 years, and in the last 3 years he's developed a lot of tumors, and we're just hoping. And I also had my daughter's dog here. They moved from Norfolk, to Pittsburgh, and the dog didn't do well there. So she came here and she was doing beautifully. And then one day it was like she'd had the same stroke as Bailey, and she passed away. And I gave some 3 llamas to some 4-H kids so they could have them to show. And they took them over to their house, and at that time they were flaring, I think it was in Cool Springs Township. There was a well flaring over there, as well as the compression station flaring here. They came home one day, and all 3 of the alpacas were laying dead in the pasture for no reason, no marks on them, no nothing. Same scenario. And it's been 2 weeks that my 3-year-old's alpaca Blanquita died. She had been shown this year at Ohio State Fair. She had been shown at the end of July, 1st of August at the Mercer County 4-H Roundup. So I have vet certificates on her for as far as her body was healthy in that. They don't do blood work on them, but they check them all over. I came down to feed them. She was fine. I came back up to the house, then I looked down and her back legs were shaking. So I helped her down to the shed that I have in the pasture. And as we walked into the shed, she fell over on me, knocked me down, and she was laying on top of me dead. I was desperate. I even tried to do CPR on an alpaca. I really don't know how that's done, but I know how to do it on humans, but it didn't help. And it was just, here's another one. And I'm in the process now of moving my animals off the property here, which I don't want to do because I like to be with my animals all the time. But I think for their health, I know they've already been exposed and I'm not going to lose any more. I have 3 alpacas and 3 llamas and 2 horses left. And we're planning to take my granddaughters to the Alpaca Nationals and the Llama Nationals down in Louisville in November, and we're holding our breath and crossing our fingers that the health remains so we can go. And I take very good care of my animals. I have a vet, and they've had vet checks all summer because we've showed all summer. So it's not something that's out of neglect. This is something in the air, the water, whatever, that is making them sick. And alpacas generally do not show that they are sick until they are well past the point of doing anything. Had they shown signs of being poisoned earlier, we definitely would have done blood test on them. But I'm not sure with how fast, once this starts and saturates their system, that you could do anything about it, because we're still here where these pollutants are affecting them. I have called the DEP, I have called the EPA, I have called the Department of Agriculture, thinking that when my last animal died that they have a vet that's on call, that suspicious animal deaths should have a necropsy. I'm still waiting for a call from the Department of Agriculture veterinarian, which I've pretty much given up on that. They take my name at the places I call. They say they'll give me a call back. Nobody calls me back. I know some people over in the Jackson Center area that have had some luck with one person that has returned their calls, so I'm going to get his name and maybe he'll come out here. Act 13, I have read as much as I can of it. It's very ambiguous. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, except for that what I get out of it is the gas company is allowed to do anything they can do to get what they want, and you can step on all the people around you that own the property because we said so. And I know that's it in a nutshell, and probably sounds very harsh, but in living this is what I feel, that I have become a doormat for the fracking industry. I think there's been a lot of humans that have died that are near the fracking stations, and I don't think that when they die they call it natural causes or something like this, or a reoccurrence of cancer. But I think that they're not looking for the pollutants that are in their body, which are causing this. The animals are the first to go. The older, weaker animals, they will go first. But animals in general are more susceptible to pollutants and toxins and water problems than the humans are. It's like the canary in the coal mine. When the gas gets bad, the canaries die, they get the guys out. I guess if they wanted the guys to stay there, you should put English sparrows in there, because they don't seem to die from the pollutants, and it's the only thing we have here. We have no Japanese beetles, we have no mosquitoes, we have no bugs crawling around the ground. I have the only barn in the area that doesn't have any flies in it. Can you imagine horse manure with no flies on it? I have that. That is unheard of. This is going to reach humans. Older, weak people will be the first ones to feel the effects. Then you will have your children, and this will eventually reach the healthy individuals that can no longer protect themselves from these toxins. We need to stop this now. We're going to move because we want to be with our animals. Animals are my life right now, and I want to be where they're at. So our house is going to be for sale, and it's a beautiful home, and it's well built. It's energy efficient, and the first person I would like to offer it to is Hillcorp, because I think you could move in here, even if you want to make offices in it. You could watch what you have created here. You could watch your employees. You could monitor the traffic. You would have firsthand knowledge of everything that's going on here. And I think it would be a great place to live or have your offices here, because obviously this is your life. You've destroyed my life here, so now I'd like you to enjoy your life here. So please contact me. I would be more than glad to sell you my house. You know, some of my insanity is a lot of fun because I really enjoy life. But now I feel like it's driving me crazy and I don't enjoy life anymore. And it's really sad because I have a good life to enjoy. I've got good kids, good grandkids. I have animals. I'm doing things I want. I love my husband. He's my best friend. But it's ruining my life. And it's not fair. I'm a Christian and I'm proud of it. And the fact that somebody can destroy a neighbor's property or their children or whatever, I think you've got to come back to the thing where you love your neighbor more than money itself. And you need to really look at this issue and what it's doing to the earth and the people who live here. And as God's children, we're all the same. And I think that at some point, we have to take charge of our own destiny, and with God's help, we can get rid of this fracking and get back to the way life is supposed to be.